calling to order the Monday, March 18th, 2013 regular meeting of the 34th Council of the City of Berkeley. Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Blanchard?
Here.
Councilmember Kadekel?
Here.
Councilmember Platt Onson?
Here.
Councilmember Stedman?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack?
Here.
And Mayor O'Dwyer.
Here. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Move to approve. Support.
Move to approve by Councilmember Kadekel with support Councilmember Baker. Any changes, additions? Hearing, seeing none. Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll?
Blanchard?
Yes.
Kadekel?
Yes.
Platt Onson?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we come to the citizens' comments portion of tonight's meeting, when you can present your thoughts on issues that are not included on tonight's agenda. Council members will not engage you in discussion. If your concern needs to be addressed by a member of city staff or a department of the city, please sign your name on the sheet provided at the clerk's desk. You may speak on a specific agenda item when it is being considered. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and city of residence.
I brought visual aids today, sorry. My name is John Nicolai. I'm a resident of Berkeley. And I was here last time, so it's the second meeting in a row. Anyway, I wanted to report that we had the Mayor's Cup this weekend. Thank you for all the council people that were there in the mayor. I really appreciate it. It was a very fun event, and I just wanted to bring some of that up, and I promise I won't go too long. We had about 80 players that came in. We had 3 games. Norp won the 6th grade game, and Anderson won the 8th grade game, so it kind of flip-flopped this year. So they each got to take home a trophy. Then we also had an alumni game where the Norp kids won a very close game against the Anderson kids. But if I was to really remark on that game, it was just so fun to see the kids on both teams play against each other. And after the game, they had big smiles on their faces, and they looked like they were just the best of friends. I was told that I better tell the high schoolers, because they were each of them wearing their Anderson or their Norp jerseys, when they were actually in middle school, that I should talk to them so they're gentle on each other. So because some of them are like my size, and some are not my size, size. I didn't say that. But you know what? During that game, there was just so much joy out there. And when and light teasing like we expect, because they had all been in school for the last 2 or 3 years, but also those high school kids, they were the ones that earlier in the day, they were working with the little guys, the 5 and 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds out there, just they're very patient, helping them stay on their feet, run them around, and they stayed around most of the day, and they were just really incredible. In fact, we had people that said. I had so many people come up to me and said, great event, but those high school kids, they just did a wonderful job. And so I just like to say kudos to them. I mean, you don't hear the greatest things about high schoolers at times, but they really stepped up to the plate and just impressed everybody that came across. I would like just to quickly thank Mayor and council members, the principals of the 2 schools, the Berkeley Dads Club that donated $250 to help us do it, and a variety of other people. One thing I didn't mention last time, and I felt really bad about that, was that we made a point to bring the high school figure skaters, the girls, to do an event as well. And I was not happy that I didn't mention that, because that was really important to bring them back. Because the ice arena is more than just hockey. It's for all of us. It's for figure skaters. It's for just going out there and doing open skates, doing a lot of fun things. So it was really great to have them there. And they were able to show their friends for the first time that what they were able to do. Because generally when you're a figure skater or even hockey player, you get to perform in front of your family. You know, that's it. Unless you're in the high school team, and you get a lot of kids. But this time, this event brought a ton of people, and they were able to perform in front of their friends as well. And that was really cool. I was remarked that people were looking for places to park their car, so that's a good thing. So, I appreciate your support, and I appreciate the community's support. I have a whole list of people I could thank, and that just means how many people it took to actually run this event. So thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, John.
Oh, and just so you know, this was the Anderson jersey that we made up that the kids took. We had high school kids that really didn't want to give them back, and so I let them keep it, you know. So that was kind of cool. So this is the Anderson jersey, and this is the Norup jersey that the kids have kept, and this is actually the O'Dwyer trophy that is going to Anderson because they won the 8th grade game. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Good job, John.
Well done.
Thanks.
Good evening, Eric Onson, City of Berkeley, and tonight I'm here representing the Environmental Advisory Committee, and we are partnering with SACRA to hold a recycling workshop on Wednesday, April 17th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Berkeley front. And they've revamped their workshop this year, so they're incorporating all 3 R's with recycling. So you'll learn what you can recycle, what you can't, but also ways you can reduce your waste, and also I forgot what the other R is now. Reuse products that you have, and since it's at the Berkeley front, you can relax, have an adult beverage. The workshop is free. The beverages are not. And if you'd like to learn more, there's information posted on the city's website, berkeleymish.org, if you go to the calendars tab. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council and city administrators, thank you for this opportunity. My name's Dennis McDavid, and it's my privilege to be the superintendent of the Berkeley School District. And I'm speaking tonight for 2 reasons. First is to share some good news with you and thank you for your continued support. And the second is to make everyone aware of a couple of ballot proposals that are put on the May 7th ballot. I know that this community shares, and I know this by their action, shares in the belief that we can't have great schools without great communities, and neither can we have great communities without great schools. And we're fortunate in the Berkeley community to have a great public school district. And again, I want to thank the whole community for that, because while we've got great teachers and great administrators and great support staff in every building, we know that we also have a great community and great kids who show up, and that means we've got great parents as well. And again, the City Council supports us, and we appreciate your agreeing to the resolution or passing the resolution last month that supports us as well. So thank you for that. Let me go on quickly to some good news, and these are just the highlights. I could go on for a long time, but Berkeley High School graduates continue to excel at the best universities in this country, including places like the University of Michigan, Michigan State, Kalamazoo College, Harvard, Yale, Georgetown, etc. Berkeley High School remains on the list of both Newsweek and the Washington Post Best High Schools list. Again and again, year after year, we do that. This year, currently right now in our schools, 48% of our seniors, 46% of our juniors, and 39% of our sophomores are taking at least one AP level class. AP is our college level. So these curricula have been vetted by the college board, and so we've got sophomores. If you think about how old a sophomore is, about 14 years old, 39% of them taking at least one AP class. That's incredible. Berkeley High School continues to offer 21 AP classes. We're one of the very few high schools statewide offering Calculus 3. 311 Anderson Middle School students are taking at least one high school level class. 203 Norup students are taking at least one high school level class, but it's not just about academics. This year we've got 106 Berkeley High School students in the marching band, which is the largest it's been. Over 24% of Berkeley High School students are involved in band, orchestra, or choir. Over 40% of BHS students are involved in athletics. At Norup, over 70% of their students and 67% of Anderson students are involved in band, orchestra, or choir. And our elementary schools remain outstanding, and their work enables the achievement and the high growth that we see at the high school level. I could go on, and in fact, just today we were informed that the Berkeley School District was recognized for the second year in a row as one of the best communities for music education in the nation. We're one of only 11 school districts in the state and 307 nationwide to be recognized for this award. And it's an award that's shared by the community, so it's the community's music education, not just the school district. And part of that's because of our great and strong relationship with McCourt's Music, one of the great businesses over on 12 Mile. So by nearly any measure, we're a great school district and we continue to get better. But to remain great, we're going to need some help from the community, some continued help. We've put 2 renewal proposals on the May 7th ballot. Both of these are renewals, so these are not increases. One proposal is the renewal of our general operating fund millage. The other is the sinking fund millage. Both renewals are critical to our continued success, and both, again, are renewals and not increases. The general operating fund millage represents about 6% of our budget and is used on day-to-day expenses, things like books and computers, et cetera. The sinking fund millage, while much smaller, is also critical. It's used on things like roofs, parking lots, and capital improvement projects. So we've got a great thing going. We are challenged by funds, as all public government entities are, and it is going to be critical for us as a school district and for our continued greatness to serve our students in the best way possible to have both of these millages pass. And again, that's on May 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, seeing no one else eager to come to the microphone, then we will move on to the next item, the consent agenda. Ms. Prince, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Item number 1, approval of the minutes. Matter of approving the minutes of the regular city council meeting on March 4th, 2013. Item number 2, resolution number R1113. Matter of approving a resolution supporting the Parks and Recreation Department application for the 2013 Recreation Passport Grant to provide park improvements and enhancements to J.C. Park.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Stedman with support by Councilmember Blanchard. Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll?
Kadeco?
Yes.
Platt Onson?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. And now we move on to the regular agenda. Ms. Prince, would you please read item 1 on tonight's regular agenda?
Recognitions and presentations. Matter of any recognitions or presentations from the consent agenda.
I've asked Councilmember Platt Onson to read R1113, please.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, authorizing the Parks and Recreation Department to apply for the 2013 Recreation Passport Grant to provide park improvements and enhancements at J.C. Park. Whereas the Berkeley City Council wishes to apply to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for a grant to fund improvements and enhancements to the city's J.C. Park, and whereas the improvements and enhancements that would be made to J.C. Park include, but are not limited to, the following: park drainage, installation of sand volleyball courts, repair of park pathways to increase accessibility. And whereas the Berkeley City Council has chosen to submit a grant application for improvements and enhancements to J.C. Park in 2013, and whereas the Michigan Department of Natural Resources must have this resolution as proof of the governing body's commitment to the application by the grant submission deadline of April 1st, 2013. Now therefore, the City of Berkeley resolves, Section 1, that the Berkeley Parks and Recreation Department is hereby authorized to submit this grant application on behalf of the City of Berkeley, Oakland County, Michigan, introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, March 18th, 2013. Dr. Phil O'Dwyer, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Sessa.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I just ask
to inform the city council, I should say, that part of the resolution, you also got a new one up here, and there's just one little statement that needs to be added, and that is that, another whereas, if I'll read it. Whereas the Berkeley City Council is committed to funding at least 25% of the total project cost in 2013-14. So that's just the only item, sir.
Okay.
Council, if that's okay? Can we add that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for the clarification.
Thank you.
And that's a very important project. And going forward, it is important that we enhance our parks and our recreational opportunities, and this will go a long ways to helping that. So we're hoping that when you make that submission, that it will be successful. Thank you. And now, Ms. Prince, would you please read item number 2 on tonight's agenda?
Oath of office, matter of the city clerk administering the oath of office to Public Safety Officer Michael J. Bunting.
Well, that is a task for the city clerk.
And let's go to the mic so we can hear you.
Mike, if you go to the microphone, please.
That way they can hear you. And then if you could just raise your hand and repeat after me. I, Michael J. Bunting,
I, Michael J. Bunting,
having been duly appointed
having been duly appointed
as Public Safety Officer for the City of Berkeley,
Public Safety Officer for the City of Berkeley,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution for the State of Michigan,
the Charter of the City of Berkeley,
the Charter of the City of Berkeley,
and that you will, and that I will perform the duties
and I will perform the duties
of my office to the best of my ability.
of my office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mike Bunting is a graduate of the Mid-Michigan Police Academy in Lansing. In 1991, he joined the Pleasant Ridge Police Department, where he served for over 21 years. Last month, he took an early retirement in order to come here. He certainly is versatile. He's experienced as a patrol officer and as a detective. He comes to us cross-certified as a firefighter, a 2012 graduate of the Oakland Fire Academy. He served 3 years in the military police with the United States Army, and he holds an associate degree in criminal justice. As we work with Pleasant Ridge on a daily basis, on many levels, we've become very familiar with Mike and with his work. He has proven himself to be a courageous and creative police officer. He's energetic and dedicated to his work. He has very good people skills, cares about people. In describing him, I'd have to say, number one, he's a man of integrity, which he has shown on many, many occasions. Most importantly, he has that sometimes elusive chip, common sense. I, along with the other members of the department, are absolutely thrilled to have him here.
Thank you, Chief. City Commission, and my beautiful wife, of course, Ginger. Again, I did start in 1991 in Pleasant Ridge. Since that time, I've known about Berkeley, but it wasn't until we started lodging our prisoners here and you guys were doing our dispatch that I got really to know the people here. Tremendous department. I've admired them for years. When the opportunity came for me to get hired in the city of Berkeley, I actually paid a great deal of money to do it, so I could retire early and come here because this is where I wanted to be. I want to make this my home. The men that work here are outstanding. I've been nothing but impressed for the few weeks that I've been here. And I hope to do a great job. And again, my wife has put up with a lot from me, so I'd like to thank her also. But thank you very much for the opportunity for coming to your city.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
welcome to our city. And of course, it's a great tribute to yourself that so many officers, so many colleagues are here. We have about 15
It's pretty awesome.
or
isn't it?
more. It is pretty awesome. And that reflects the morale and collegial spirit of the department.
It does. I've never seen it anyplace else. When they all said they were coming, I was floored. And as one of the officers just told me, he said, "This is what we do," and it's wonderful.
Well, that's why we say in Berkeley, we care.
It's
This
good.
is a demonstration.
It's a perfect motto.
It's a demonstration of support for one another.
It is.
And to be an effective public safety department, you depend on one another for safety to begin with, for your
Absolutely.
own safety. And so this kind of esprit de corps and collegiality is a delightful thing to see. And we see it fairly often here at City Council chambers when you guys have to come before us. So we congratulate the administrative staff who assembled this remarkable group of public servants.
Absolutely.
We welcome you and we thank you.
Thank you very much.
And now, Ms. Prince, we are ready to move along to item number 3 on tonight's agenda.
Ordinance number 0113, matter of approving an amendment to Chapter 138 zoning, Article 4, off-street parking and loading, Division 3, bicycle parking requirements of the Berkeley City Code. First reading, set date certain, April 1st, 2013.
Is there a motion to approve 0113 with the date certain?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Platt Onson.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Baker. Mr. Sessa.
Council, you do recall, we discussed this ordinance at our last council meeting, where we discussed it as a work session item. And this evening, I'd like to ask our city planner, Ms. Vanson, to just briefly go over the highlights of this ordinance with the city council and inform the residents as to what it is that this ordinance will be doing. And then also, just a reminder, council, that this is just a first reading, and it will come before the council one more time. Ms. Manson, thank you.
Good evening. As we talked at the work session a couple of weeks ago, this ordinance would only apply to businesses that are building a new building and a new parking lot, or refurbishing a parking lot, which are things that already require a permit. This is not anything that we're going to require when they get a landlord license or when it's just a new business going into an existing building. This is something that they're already doing substantial work. And this ordinance would require that they install a bike rack that would hold 2 bikes. If they want to, they can install 2 of those and get a parking credit for 2 cars. So that would allow 4 bikes to be parked there. They take up a lot less space than 2 cars, and they would get credit. So some businesses that maybe want to expand, but there's no way to crunch the numbers, they're going to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance because it's a building that was built in 1930, and we just didn't have the same parking requirements we have now, even though we have substantially less parking requirements than, say, Troy or Canton. This would allow, rather than going through administrative hearings and so forth to allow a business to expand, this would allow them to spend the same amount of money essentially on a bike rack, and they get the parking credit, and the city and the business and the customers get to enjoy an improvement. So that's what this ordinance essentially requires. It, like I said, it's for businesses that are already doing a substantial piece of work. If they want to do something different than the standard U-shaped bike rack, there are standards for that. So if they wanted to do something a little more artsy, we allow for that. We just want to make sure it's safe and no one's going to end up hurt. And I think that's it. Are there any questions? I think I summed it up pretty well, but if I've missed something, please let me know.
I think you've covered the essentials
Okay.
very well, because we discussed this at the work session. Are there additional points to be made regarding this? So it reflects.
Great.
It,
Great job, Amy. That's fantastic.
So much for my poker face.
that's right. It certainly does reflect all the points that were made at the work session. So
Thanks,
it seems to me then that there's general agreement. Only one question I would have, because
Almost had it.
somebody has to have a question here. And the question is, if one wished to design one's own bike rack, that would have to be approved by
It
somebody?
would. We have standards, and yes, it would either need to, if it was, it would end up being the building official who would end up looking at it. And we're going to look at a lot of the same standards that they use for railings to make sure a child's head can't get stuck and things like
Okay.
that. A lot of the same standards would apply.
Okay, good. That's an important safety consideration.
Absolutely.
Well then, if everybody's in agreement with that, we can call the roll, Ms. Prince.
Platt Onson,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. And now, Ms. Prince, would you please read item number 4 on tonight's agenda?
Motion number M 14-13, matter of authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for legal services for the city of Berkeley.
Is there a motion to approve M 1413?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by
M1314.
Councilmember
Support?
Stedman with support by Councilmember Platt Onson. Ms. DeSessa.
Council, as you know, we've been working on this item for quite a while now. The City Council appointed an ad hoc committee to look into this matter. And you also know that just this past Saturday, the City Council also had a special work session to interview 3 candidates to provide legal services for the City of Berkeley. These 3 companies were Gianmarco, Mullins, and Horton at $66,000, Heffelin, Starren, Hallahan, and Christ at $60,000, and Dale Schneider at $80,000. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all of the respondents for submitting their proposals for us to consider. I'd also like to specifically thank the finalists for sharing their time, experience, and qualifications to the City of Berkeley. So with that, Mayor and City Council, what I'm asking at this time is to let me know how you wish to proceed. In other words, is there an applicant that you would like for me to begin this process with?
Very good. Before we move to the applicant or to the nomination of an applicant, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the subcommittee that we appointed under leadership of Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack. Councilmember Blanchard and Councilmember Stedman also served on that committee, and they did remarkable work. We started off with 21 or so applicants, and they all got whittled down to 3, and it was carefully managed and data collected and varying goods weighed back and forth and considerations of different qualities, characteristics, abilities, fit, everything was factored into that. So they did a remarkable job. And then I'd like to thank the entire council as well for Saturday morning. It's not common that we meet on a Saturday. And so Saturday we met in a work session to review again those final 3 and interview each one of them. And that occurred. And now we come to a point where we must make a decision. We have 3 candidates, and you have all had sufficient time to think about, make up your mind, focus on where we are with this. And so now would be a time when, if anyone would like to place in nomination the name of one of those, the candidate that gets 4 votes first, of course, is the winner. Councilmember Stedman.
After all of our studying, and we looked at several things, including knowledge of municipal law, prosecution experience, any specialty skills that might be had, the request for proposal presentation, and the fit with the city. And with that, I would like to nominate Hafeli, Starren, Hallahan, and Christ to be our legal representation.
Well, we have one name in nomination. Is there support?
Support.
Support nominated by Councilmember Stedman, support by Councilmember Platt Onson. Is there any discussion, or are we ready to cast our vote on that one? Seems like we're ready to cast a vote. Ms. Prince, please call the roll on Hafeli, Starren, Hallahan, and Christ.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Platt Onson,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Thank you all. Now we move on to item number 5 on tonight's agenda.
Council work session, matter of discussing proposed changes to the fee schedule.
Is there a motion to go into work session?
Move to go into work session.
Moved by Councilor
Second.
Kadeco, second by Mayor Pro Tem Terbrack. Mr. Sessa.
Council, our city planner, Ms. Vanson, is very good about making sure that our fees are kept up to date. And we want to make sure that, that they're in line, not just with what some of our surrounding communities are doing, but it's also in line with our budgetary needs. She notes in her memorandum that we've not increased our fees since 2002. So at this time, I'd like to have her just simply come up and identify those fees and talk a little bit about why we're recommending them, and then council would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Ms. Manson?
We have updated fees, just not these fees, since, 2002, 2007, I think I was going back over my notes. Do you want me to just go through them? Okay. So on the first page, which is labeled page 2, we have a stray double fee if work is started before permit is secured. We can't do this, even if it says it, we can't do it. So I would suggest that we delete it. On the construction permits with regard to pools, the changes clarify that the permit typically pulled for an above-ground pool only covers one electrical inspection. Obviously, if the inspector has to go back because something's not correct, there's going to be an additional charge. But our electrical inspector clarified that an in-ground pool requires 2 inspections, so that fee would be higher. And so, so if somebody's interested in an above-ground pool, the total is going to be $115, and an in-ground one is going to be $190. And so that changes from $160 to $190 because there are two electrical inspections that are required. Moving on to page 3, temporary services for electrical, they're a standalone item, and this is merely just a clarification. If somebody comes in to apply for a temporary service, the fee schedule says $25, but we have a minimum fee of $40. So this would just set it at $40 because that's what we're going to charge anyway, because the minimum fee is the default. And that would make it clearer if anybody gets a copy of the fee schedule, they'll know that. With regard to motors, generators, welders, heating, power units, and central air, no idea what any of those are. Our electrical inspector is advised, and I should say, I asked our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing inspectors to look at all of these, and our building inspector, and tell me what needs to be updated, what's missing, and so these are their recommendations. Our electrical inspector advised that generators need to be taken out of that list because they are charged per circuit, not per horsepower. So the suggestion is to delete it and then add a following: generators, new or extended circuit, $40, which is the charge for a circuit. Car charging stations, solar panels, and wind turbines, these are all things that require standard circuitry. There's nothing particularly fancy about it. It's standard. And so folks wanting to do that can look at our fee schedule and figure out what they want. But I did ask our inspector to develop fees so it would be packaged, and if somebody's Googling it, they'll be able to pull this up easier than trying to maybe figure out whether we allow it or we don't allow it. So they'll know that it is allowed and this is how much it costs. Heating permits. We looked at, I asked along with if anything needed to be updated, I said, is there anything that's grossly outrageous with regard to fees? And our inspector said that water heaters are very low. Water heaters, as I said, are typically a standalone item, so it would be $40. Our current fee has it at $25. Well, typically a humidifier and water heater are together. And so the suggestion is to up it slightly from, instead of the humidifier being 10, to go to 15, and the water heater, instead of 25, to go to 50. Things that have not been included that need to be: electronic air cleaner, thermal expansion tanks, and welded exhausted vents for commercial application. Those are all things that have not been included that need to be. Under miscellaneous fees, this is what I get involved with: seasonal sales, promotional events, community special events. These are fees, as I said, that are charged if a business wants to have a sidewalk sale or hang a banner or sell Christmas trees. A community special event is charged when an organization wants to host a community event like the Art Bash or Rabina Rhapsody. These fees have not been increased since 2002. And for those watching, and these fees help defer the cost of reviewing the application from the building department standpoint, from public safety standpoint of issuing traffic orders, and public works of delivering any traffic cones and that sort of thing, and barricades, as well as setting up and tearing those down. So a slight increase has been suggested. Likewise, with regard to new businesses in Berkley, these fees have not been increased since 2007. I have not suggested increasing a transfer, so if a business is staying in Berkley and just moving locations, the fee is $100 if they're moving to a new building. For new businesses, it's been $150, a one-time fee. Since 2007, I've suggested upping it to $200. Bike racks, per our discussion, if a business does not want, for our discussion at the work session, if a business, for whatever reason, doesn't want to install a bike rack on private property, they will still be required to do one. The city can require that under the ordinance that was just approved at the first reading. And according to the DPW director, a $300 fee covers the cost of a bike rack and labor if the city is going to install it within a block of that business on public property. So that fee has been included in this. With regard to plumbing permits, again, a review of similar communities showed that our fees were quite low. So essentially a $7 increase with regard to grease traps, a $10 increase with regard to a sump or interceptor, and water heaters can either be pulled by a mechanical contractor or a plumbing contractor, so those are the same fees as you saw earlier. Medical gas per outlet, that's something that we get a lot of, given our proximity to Beaumont Hospital. It's something that has never been included in our fee schedule, and our plumbing inspector, who's been with us for about a year, was quite surprised at that and said that really does need to be in there because it does need to be inspected. Sewer and storm drain permits. With regard to the water distribution permits, our fees are quite low compared to other cities. Other cities have a starting permit at $65 and go all the way to $140 for the different size services. I thought that that was a bit much, and so I've recommended the changes that you see. With regard to bonds, Public Works has been having some difficulty ensuring that sidewalks and berms are restored, and we've had discussions about that with regard to streets, and the city has had to go back and repair streets when folks just decide they don't really want to. And so right now, we have a $500 bond if you're doing anything from the curb to your house, and it's a $1,500 bond if you touch the street. And what DPW is asking is that we have a separate step with a $1,000 bond if you're touching the sidewalk or the berm. So $500 if everything that you're excavating is on between the sidewalk and the house, $1,000 if you're going to be touching the sidewalk or the curb, anything in there, and then $1,500 if you have to go into the street and go across the street in many instances. So that was DPW's request, and I'm their spokesperson on this. So I went fast. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Or if anything doesn't sound right and you want to not do it, obviously this is at your discretion, but this is what's being recommended, and keeping up with our neighboring cities and covering our costs.
Thank you. There are a lot of items here. Are there questions and concerns about any of these? Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a question, Amy. We have two different permits for water heaters. Are they $50 each? Is that $100 you put in a water heater, or?
No, one is
or the
under,
other?
it's either one or the other. One's under our plumbing fee schedule and one is under mechanical. And that's one of the only items that a mechanical contractor or a plumber can pull that permit. Most things, it's either one or the other. So it's in both places, so it would need to be changed in both spots.
I had another one, but I can't find it. Also on the, in the section of the electric car charging station and the solar panels and the wind turbines, we have additional inspection for the electric car charging panel at $20, but both solar panels and wind turbines are only $12. Is there a reason that they're $8 less if you got a solar panel and a wind turbine?
I bet there is, and I'm sure Cecil Klein had a really good reason for it, but he did this in December, and I don't remember. I could
Okay.
certainly get back to you on that.
I was just curious, you know,
No, that's a very good.
$12 seems very
It's-
cheap for an additional inspection.
Well, it's each additional station.
Mhm.
It's not the inspection.
Oh,
It's the station. So if you're going to have a fleet of electric car charging stations,
Okay.
each additional one. But you're right, it seems odd that it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I will ask about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, the bulk of these remain the same. It's just a few here and there that are being increased. Are there any other ones that we need to look at? Councilmember Platt Hansen.
Okay, this is maybe going to seem a little crazy since we had very little discussion on two other items, though I would like to remind everybody we talked about them in great length at a work session. So I have a lot of little questions, sorry. For the electric and solar, to build off what Councilmember Blanchard was asking, could you also maybe, and like you were just saying, maybe you don't have this on the top of your head, but do we know why we're doing like 65 as opposed to the $40 minimum? Is that something that?
I think it's tied to the circuitry. I think that's our charge for the circuits, but I'm sorry, I don't have that answer right now. But I know there was a rationale with it because when Cecil and I talked about it, I said, well, we allow this anyway. I mean, it's been inspected. We had those ones that didn't go to planning commission, but they did get inspected, so they're safe. They're just not legal in another way. And he said, well, this is how you would do with the circuitry. And I said, well, how would we break it down as far as if it was just a charging station? So I think he combined the circuitry and maybe the fixtures that would go with it. I'm not certain, so, but I can get that answer for you.
Okay. And then there are, the water heater, we're looking at doubling the fee. Is that
Well, it's really
something-
just 40.
Oh, because right now it's at a 40
So it would be,
minimum.
yeah, it's a minimum
So it is an
fees.
increase. On paper, it's a bigger increase.
Correct.
But in reality, it's a smaller increase.
Right.
Okay.
And if you were building a house and putting a water heater in and several other things, then yes, it would be twice as much. But if it's just someone that's replacing their water heater, it's a $10 increase. I just want to be honest with you. It's not going to be 25 if you're building a whole house. It would be 50. But if you're just replacing a water heater, it's 40 versus 50.
Okay. And then for the new merchant's license, new
Yes.
business,
Mhm.
what are some of the surrounding communities charging, and do you have any idea
We're
how this
charging
falls
every other year for every business. That's what a
every
lot
other
of them are
year
doing.
for every business, and we're charging a one-time fee?
Yeah.
And then, I have one more in here. Oh, here, okay. And then the last one, just because we've talked so much about our small businesses and what we can do to help support them, so we're looking at upping the fee for like their sidewalk sales and promotions and things like that. And that's the one that while it may or may not be keeping up with extra costs, or, helping us make back, what it's costing us to do it, that's the one that I'm not sure if this is the right time to be. I mean, it's a 50% increase. We were charging 50, we're looking at 75. I just don't know if the situation that our small businesses are in and what we're trying to do to help support them, if it's the right thing to do right now to increase that. And that was I swear it's my last question and comment.
Thank you. I think you make a very important point, that seasonal sale permits and promotional kinds of things and community events, I mean, they're for the community. And one would hate to be increasing something that would maybe disincentivize people from doing something useful for the community. I'd be inclined to agree with Councilmember Platt Onson on this. That's one area. That's the one area that I would have just a little reluctance to be increasing it, because businesses are under pressure as it is, and a lot of groups are under pressure, and and I know that it is a cost to the city. I get that, but sometimes, and we're not changing the cleanup cost. That remains the same.
Right, and they get that back as long as they've cleaned it up.
Yeah. So they're my initial thoughts, Steve.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Amy, thank you for your time in preparing this, for researching it, and for bringing this before us as a work session. I did have a few other questions that were already surfaced between my two colleagues here, and so, but I did point out this one as well, and that kind of stuck out at me. My technical question was for things like the Art Bash, if this would be a per business? Or is
No,
it
it's
per-
just, the
for
chamber
event?
pulls it.
So there'd be one per event, so it wouldn't be like every single business along
Oh,
there
no,
would
no,
need to
no.
pull it, okay. But even then, I'd still, because that was, if it was something like that where every single business would need to, then I'd have
Right.
yeah,
No,
a
that would
big
be,
question,
wow,
but,
that'd be a lot of money, wouldn't it? No,
yeah.
don't do that.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate that clarification. But I also wonder if there's a way that we can continue to find ways to provide the service at the existing rates, if at all possible. That'd be my comments on this one as well. Thank you.
Very good. Any other items, fees that you want to weigh in on? I noticed the one down here at the end, that $1,000 for excavation of sidewalk and street and so on. I just would take this opportunity to remind all our residents, that we have an insurance, the ability to have an insurance now regarding a sewer break between your house and the street. This is a very expensive undertaking.
It is.
If you have to dig up your lawn and come out into
And if
the
the
street.
sewer's on the other side of the street.
And if the
it's-
sewer is on the other
that's-
side, that is really expensive. And so residents might want to consider that, because
Absolutely.
our housing stock is sufficiently old to have this a kind of a common occurrence for residents. So we talked about this last year, that insurance ability. And I would encourage people to consider that. Mayor Pro Tem
Just to
Turbrack.
clarify what you're talking about there, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
The $1,000 is a bond.
You're right.
So that's ensuring that once the work is done, then it goes back to the way that it was before. It's not an additional charge because you have to do
Correct.
something.
Correct.
Right.
It's just our way of making sure that things are put back the way that we'd like to see them put back in the city. So the
Correct.
1,000, the 1,500, the
Yeah.
500, those are bonds
Correct.
that you would get back upon
Absolutely.
completion. And,
And it's there for us to use in case you don't.
right, certainly,
Okay.
certainly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Finance Director.
I just want to point out to the council that we are going after a contractor right now, and we had to do the repairs. We had to come in with our crews, do the work over a 2-day period, and ran over $4,000.
Mhm.
So when you look at the $1,000 bond versus the $4,000, if we have to come in to do the work,
Yes.
sure.
it's it helps, but
Yeah.
it's not going to cover our entire cost.
Right.
And we do go after the contractor.
Very good. Any other fees that anyone would like to take a look at and revise, review? So we have to now offer some direction then to city administration about what to do with these matters. The one that I heard about was that those miscellaneous fees regarding special use permits. Is there a sense that you want to leave that alone?
Yes.
Because it would, yeah, so there's, okay. So that one
That's fine.
is recommended to be left where it is. Any other one that
just checking on the questions that Councilmember Blanchard had.
Blanchard,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes,
Councilmember
and I'll
Blanchard's
get,
questions.
and with regard to the solar panels and the wind turbines,
Right.
yes, I will get that information to you.
Very good. Does that help administration then?
Yes, Your Honor,
How
thank you
we
very
proceed.
much. We're fine. And we'll
Okay.
come back.
Very
Okay.
good. Thank
All
you,
right.
Amy.
Good night.
And now we come to the communications section of tonight's meeting. And Ms. Prince, who should be first?
Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack.
There you go, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing, and I have a feeling many of my colleagues will also mention it, and certainly the mayor, but to thank John Nicolai again for all of the incredible time and planning that he put into the Mayor's Cup. The arena was filled that day, and we talked last meeting about the arena and what we wanted to do to try to continue to keep it open and being very creative, Mr. Colwell and the Parks Department. But being there, seeing all the kids, he had both schools, all the schools mentioned, but John went even further, as he mentioned. He brought the figure skaters back this year, and he also allowed, there are residents who may not go to one of those schools, they were also allowed to play. So it was really a full community event. It went on the entire day. I have heard nothing but positive things about it, and we saw the police officers here. The mayor mentioned our motto, "We Care," but that's one of the things that makes this place so special. The fact that we have residents that volunteer a lot of time to put on an event like that for the kids, the parents to watch, the alumni. That's why Berkeley is such a great place to live. And I want to make sure that we recognize John for everything that he does. And he sent out pictures already, and there are a lot of great pictures. And the mayor got to drop the puck, and he didn't fall, which is fantastic. I was a little worried there for a minute, but they didn't bring the carpet out this year for you, I saw. But no, it was just a great event. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Platt Onson.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. First, on the note of volunteers and just people really coming together to make things happen, I wanted to say thanks and congratulations on the home show. I had the opportunity to encounter a lot of very important people like the mayor there while working the environmental committee booth. And it's just nice to meet the residents, reach out, answer their questions, have them meet some of our contractors. And with what we've been seeing in permits over the past year, hopefully we'll be seeing, some more improvements on the houses from some of the local contractors. I wanted to thank City Attorney Dale Schneider for his many years of service to the city. We needed to go out to bid, definitely as a budget issue, and he worked with us all the way through, and I was pleased that so much thought and effort really went into the selection process. So again, thanks to the committee and thanks to Dale for his service. And I just wanted to give a little shout out again to the Parks and Recreation Department. They do a phenomenal job of trying to find really creative ways to put on programs and fix up our facilities using very little money, and the resolution tonight really spoke to that again as they're pursuing some grant money to fix up J.C. Park. So thanks to them for their efforts. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Cadeckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to thank John Nicolai. I had a great time at the Mayor's Cup this past weekend. I want to wish everyone a very happy Easter and happy Passover, as we won't be back before we see them again. And we're talking about volunteers, and one of the biggest volunteers in this city, Mr. Gary Polk, he has been on Cruise Fest Committee. He's currently serving on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and he's very ill right now, and I'm asking everyone to keep Gary in their prayers and thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. A couple quick things. Continuing in the conversation around our Parks and Rec Department, I also wanted to extend my gratitude and appreciation for their work with another successful Berkeley Cartoon Theater. It was a great turnout in the community center with folks coming from all ages and interest to watch an hour of cartoons with great volunteer staff. I see Josephine here with us. Hi, thank you for all you did to help make that a success. So here's to another cartoon theater. And it was Leo Tolstoy who once wrote, "Spring is the time of plans and projects." And again, that's spring is the time of plans and projects. And I'll offer that on a couple of fronts. First, because the first day of spring is coming up. It's a little bit hard to tell given the weather that's recently come to us, but if you think back a weekend, you'll certainly know it's right around the corner. And speaking of plans and projects, our Downtown Development Authority, DDA, met last Wednesday, the 13th, and the budget, again, was discussed in terms of the plans and projects that they have for the coming year. One of the pieces that they covered was the a wayfinding open house. So that's a project that's underway to do a study to help define and illuminate the character and the persona, the sense of place that Berkley can and should have. And so I know there were several of us in attendance at that session. It was well represented by staff, by the DDA, by the volunteers on the committee, by the general public, the media, and we greatly appreciate all of their support and feedback and encouragement as we seek to move forward with identifying the brand, identifying the tenor, the character of our community for those new to Berkley and for those of us that have called it home for many generations. It's an exciting project. I want to thank them for that continued work on that front. And speaking of moving forward, the Coolidge traffic study, we had the pleasure of seeing the results of the study from the traffic engineers, and we look forward to having a work session to explore that in more detail with the council, with the DDA, with the residents, with business owners, to see how and in what ways we can move forward with that. So there's every interest in moving forward with that general session there. And speaking of moving forward, the transit work continues. The Woodward Avenue Alternatives Analysis Steering Committee meets again tomorrow. And the next public open house to get additional feedback from the general public and share ideas and plans is coming up. We'll have a little bit of time to remind ourselves of this, but just to plant the early save the date, it's Thursday, April 25th, Thursday the 25th of April, from 5:30 to 7:30 at the community center. So once again, Berkley has the pleasure of hosting one of these events for ourselves and our neighboring communities. And we welcome all of your opinions and input, participation in the process here as we seek to shape the future ahead of us here with our transit options. And regardless of whatever your plans or projects are, please be safe out there, especially as we begin to set our sights on the spring weather here. Don't forget that there's still ice on some of the roads, and be careful as you make your way about town. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stedman.
The Friends of the Library, which is another wonderful volunteer group, had a Valentine's Day bake sale and raised over $300 to support the library. They recently also purchased a new disc resurfacing machine that will extend the life of DVDs, music CDs, and audiobooks. They also purchased a new floor cushion for the children's room and agreed to give $1,000 to support the teen reading program. And these are things the library would not have been able to put in their budget, so they're extra things that a volunteer group raises the money to donate. The other group that supports a Friend of the Library in another way is the Berkley Rotary Club. They have a speaker each month, and each week, in honor of that speaker, they donate a book to the library. So each year, they donate 40 to 50 books that they wouldn't have ordinarily been able to afford. And other than that, I have nothing else tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to thank everybody that worked both on the Berkley Home Expo and the Mayor's Cup. 2 weekends, 2 outstanding events. We had a lot of citizens really enjoyed themselves. It was very good. March is reading month, so I urge everyone to visit our outstanding library. And it's also Parenting Awareness Month. So it's time to take your kids and go to the library. Show them the benefits of the library and the benefits of reading. So that's all I've got, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Sessa.
Council, just a few reminders to our public. I know that if you go to our website at www.berkleymich.org, you can get all this information, but just, again, quick reminder, there's a couple of dates that are coming up real quick. The first is this coming Saturday, March the 23rd. We are having Breakfast with the Bunny. Everybody's got to go at the community center. And it's from 3 years to the 5th grade, and it's only $4 per person. Of course, there's a deadline for this $4. It's March the 21st. After March 21st, it's $6. And then next Saturday, or the following Saturday, back in April the 13th, I should say, we're having our animal clinic, and we get a lot of people that come to that as well. And we provide vaccinations to our animals for $5. So please bring your pets, and for a low rate of $5, it'll be held here at our public safety area. And our city clerk is doing all the work for that. I want to thank her and her staff. They do this on a volunteer basis as well, Your Honor. And it's been done for many, many years, and I can't thank them enough for their work as well on that. You know, Your Honor, you also mentioned the insurance program. I get calls now and then from residents that ask me about this insurance. Again, it's called the Utility Line Warranty Program. And for more information, you can go on our website. You can get all kinds of information. It is not mandated. It's not required. It's just simply an insurance that's there for the resident to help them, especially if they have some severe problems, that they may be able to do this. So again, all this information is on our website at berkleymich.org. And I encourage everybody to subscribe, or at least, or to join, be a member. This way you can get letters and notices about the city of Berkeley. We've got quite a few people that already subscribe to it, so I want to thank everybody. And also, I'd like to thank the ad hoc committee, the council ad hoc committee regarding the city attorney review search. You all did an amazing job. It was a difficult job. It was a lot of work, and I can't tell you how easy you all made it simply by your time and your work and keeping our staff informed on all those items. So thank you all to the ad hoc committee and to the city council for all your work. This is tremendous. I'd also like to also express my appreciation to the city attorney, Dale Schneider. He was here with us for a long, long time, and I want to thank him for his work. So with that, Your Honor, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sabuda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing this evening.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to join the city manager and my colleagues in thanking Dale Schneider in view of tonight's vote, and wish him well. 10 years of service is a wonderful contribution to any community, and we appreciate all he has done, and we wish him well. With regard to the Mayor's Cup and the Berkeley Expo, two wonderful events, we congratulate the winners of the Mayor's Cup. We thank the volunteers, and we thank the parents as well. You know, the parents who bring these youngsters out and keep them involved in athletics and pay attention as well to their academic achievements. We heard from the superintendent of the Berkeley School District this evening, reminding us of the academic achievements of the youngsters in our district, and we're enormously proud of their achievements. City Council of Berkeley, Huntington Woods, and Oak Park and the school district met a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was a very productive experience. We shared some of the financial struggles that each community has to deal with, and tried to develop collaborative ways to work together going forward. Excuse me. And so I felt very encouraged by the sense of community amongst the three cities and the school district, and look forward to working with them in the next several years. With that, there will be a motion in order to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn by Councilmember Kideckel.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Stedman. Ms. Prince, please call the roll.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Platt-Onson,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes, March 18th meeting of the 34th Council is adjourned.